Hello and welcome to another StarCraft 2 co-op video. Today we'll be looking at another post from a Chinese forum about the upcoming mutation.
This week's is a bit difficult. There's a lot of pressure in the early game on COA. With speed freaks and just die, you're forced to fight in melee distance, and your one-use top bars are weakened, increasing this pressure even more. And the infested from Outbreak comes from odd angles, messing things up. The first wave of them arrives at around 2 minutes and 30 seconds, scratching your base. Make a good SimCity to protect your workers. Then clean them up and fight off the first wave. Also, do not hastily expand unless you have cheap static defense that can fight off the infested with 2 lives. The early game is tough already, and then the infested might divert your attention, causing you to fall apart easily. I even saw a lone wolf stay on one base and use Rattlesnake to defend the main. Do not blindly push Genera to force a hybrid spawn unless you think you can take on just die hybrids. So far, the runs I've watched all deal with the 7-minute tier 5 wave and clear the paths before pushing Genera to the hybrid or waiting for the hybrid to spawn. After defeating a hybrid boss, remember to clear the nearby buildings, especially the ones behind the second hybrids. The enemy's nearby workers will rebuild buildings, so don't forget about them if you are full clearing. In particular, be sure to check the base at 4 o'clock. Also, don't keep thinking about the bonus. With speed freaks, the bonus is already annoying enough. It also has just die. The general plan should be to have 1 player attack and 1 player defend. 1 player uses a strong head-on commander who can full clear quickly. The other defends a base and expo to stop the infested harassment and to defend Genera. If that player has spare resources, he can clear nearby buildings. After surviving the first hybrid, you can breathe a sigh of relief. If you can full clear before 28 minutes, you've already beaten 90% of the mission. Swan Carracks and Abathur's Golden Swarm hosts can consider not full clearing and just defending key locations. The week after is Transmutation and Barrier on Void Thrashing. Pretty easy for hero solo commanders. Currently I have only soloed this with Stukov P3 choosing Siege of Storms and Stukov P3 hard counter Siege of Storms, so it was easy. It does not have any universal applicability whatsoever, so I won't talk about commander choices. Stukov P3 against Siege of Storms is really easy. Put a few bunkers at home for defense, and if necessary, infest structure for sure can take out the little zombies. Also, since Stukov P3 has tons of bunkers, the zombies often go towards a sea of infested marines. Siege of Storm's escort waves are extremely weak and are easily defeated by infested marines. These marines will also passively push Genera. For the regular attack waves, Tempest will spend their DPS on trash marines. Artanis players all know how rough it is for Amon. Make 3 bunkers at home in the early game. Apocalypse at 4 minutes clears the wave and the enemies in the center. Make up to 5 bunkers, then push towards a natural. Wait for the creep to spread to the first hybrid area. Use the Alexander on the 7-minute tier 5 wave to easily get rid of numerous Void Rays, as they won't revive if you steal them. The infested Marines will get rid of the accompanying Adepts. Afterwards, rally the infested Marines to the first hybrid wave. Wait until 9 minutes, and then the Apocalypse will be ready again. The rest is just slowly full clearing the map. As I said in the Mutation preview last week, the brutal part about this is the speedy infested and the random enemies that keep coming, so you can't rely on your map knowledge and timings. These uncertainties are really hectic for a 30-something-year-old person like me. When I solo rifts, it is noticeably easier when I change the game speed from faster to fast. If you don't have any problems soloing on fast, you definitely won't have any problems in a duo. The result is that in duos, there are many changes to the speedy infested. Aside from Stukov P3, I looked at runs for other commanders. I think my brain is only probably capable of copying a 1-base lone wolf. And maybe Abathur, who spawn camps the hybrids with toxic nests and uses swarm hosts to defend multiple fronts. The others require so much switching between screens that my brain refuses to cooperate.
Feed freaks plus outbreak plus the location of the expos and COA mean you need to defend multiple fronts. If you want a full clear and get the bonuses, your multitasking needs to be a notch stronger. You also have to deal with just die, which means your main army's units have to be strong enough to deal with them. As a result, if we count these, you need at least 2 control groups. It's best if you use 4. The main 2, Expo to defend against harassment and Genera. 1 to 2 more recommended groups. 1 to clear the buildings along the main path and 1 to clear the buildings where the infested spawn from. 1 to 2 more for advanced players. If you can, 1 to camp the attack wave spawn points and 1 to camp the escort spawn point. With regards to commander selection, in a pre-made duo you can have 1 player be responsible for defending and 1 responsible for attacking. Or you can choose a strong multitask commander for yourself like Lone Wolf. Also, you should consider which commander to choose if the level 5 bug is still there in the Asia server.
Based on my experience on the NA server, it will definitely be fixed in 2 weeks. If I'm really locked at level 5, I will have to simply consider firepower. Lone Wolf is definitely one of the candidates. This guy has strong firepower for the first few minutes of the game when the pressure is greatest, but how he will clear the middle will be a problem due to his short reach. Swan doesn't have his fire suppression systems, but his workers can mass repair, which isn't bad. He also has tanks to blast the zombies. He has both concentrated beam and pulse cannon. Even though the beam is a bit narrow, at least the damage is still there. Paper planes are usable, but with 8 Vipers, they will get owned. Mr. Spin to win is usable, but he only has himself and DTs. He also doesn't have Devolution Aura, making his short reach problem even worse. Commanders who have firepower, but are weak in the early game, and thus are rather bad are Stukov P1. Apocalypse only has its regular attack. No Alexander. Tanks AoE aren't really a problem when it comes to defending the bases. However, with 1 fewer big top bar, Stukov's curve goes from AV to a flat S. Abathur has swarm hosts from level 1. You don't need speed buffs from creep when defending. I feel that P1 is better for trading, but P1 is generally a prestige whose power is on display in the late game. The general summary is that they all have problems. If I were to seriously think about this mutation, Lone Wolf and Swan...
I want to ask something. Is there a time limit for just die? For example, can I nuke the last big wave with Odin and then wait for the cooldown and nuke it again to clear it?
Nope. In the Lone Wolf run I saw, the guy used 2 nukes 2 separate times to nuke the center encampment.
Another round of Shir chaos. China server, oh my China server.
Nope. Enemies that have revived won't revive again. However, during the interval between the 2 nukes, Amon will destroy your base.
Good. The mutation where Odin cooldown mastery is the most cost-effective.
Actually, based on Lone Wolf's numbers, he can definitely forcefully push into bases, since there are no head-on mutators. Nuke takes out 1 life, and then push into the base like it's regular brutal. Waiting for another nuke is just making things more difficult for yourself.
Using 2 nukes on the center encampment is probably to make sure that the infested keep going up the middle rather than going around and attacking your butt. Also, besides the middle base, you also have to clear the bases from 5 to 7 o'clock and 12 to 3 o'clock. These 2 areas are easier than the middle, and the infested often take very odd paths.
Can't do anything with Lone Wolf at level 5. Sirius is at level 6. No half-price first outlaw or cheaper gear. Too poor.
Level 5 has its ways to play. Level 15 has its own method. Soloing will be hard, but it really won't be difficult in a duo. Don't underestimate the numbers. Lone Wolf Tychus only needs grenade damage, and at level 5, you don't have that many upgrades. You pretty much won't be lacking money, which will be money for the next recruit. The main thing about this map is pushing quickly. The longer you wait, the harder it will be. If you haven't finished by 20 minutes and aberrations come, you can just quit.
For Lone Wolf, the difference between level 5 and level 15 isn't so big that he's unusable. The more important levels, 6 Serious, 9 Medivacs, 15 Nuke. Not that important, but having them is better than not having them. 13 all research upgrades, 7 cheaper first outlaw, 11 gear cost reduction. Pretty much useless, 8 Cannonball, 10 Vega, 12 ultimate gear, 14 ultimate gear. That's why it's a bit difficult but not impossible. Primary difference is that you don't have economic benefits, no masteries and no nuke, so pushing speed will be slow. However, tech and strength are the same. If you are familiar with the map mechanisms, have Nux spawn camp the attack waves and escort waves to reduce the pressure.
And that's it for this post. What advice do you have for this mutation? Comment it down below and I'll see you next time.